Hey, how y'all doing out there? I got some old crazy news for y'all. Offset going through hell with Cardi B right now. He the mama and the daddy. She running the streets with this football player and she ain't trying to give him no money to take care of the kids. And you figure he a man, he's supposed to be able to do it on his own. But the crazy part about this is Takeoff allegedly told Offset that one day Cardi B will leave him for another man. And that's exactly what happened. I know Offset losing his mind right now because a lot of people believe she the reason why the Migos broke up in the first place.
There's plenty of evidence to back up the fact that this legendary trio was doomed from the start, and the problems began to occur way before the tragic passing of Takeoff. In fact, one could make the argument that it all started way back in 2017, when Offset began his relationship with none other than Cardi B.
I remember when Takeoff passed away, that was the end of their relationship. She got on social media and let the whole world know how he was grieving. He was trying to grieve in peace. He was ready to speak when he was ready to speak. But she came out anyway and told everybody his personal business, made him feel real small as a man. And a lot of women do that. I don't know if y'all realize that's what y'all be doing, but speak on a man's behalf or express the way you feel a man is feeling, especially to the world, to your mama, to your friends, to whoever. That's belittling to a man. You figure your woman's supposed to be your rock, but Cardi B was acting like SpongeBob SquarePants even though she got a round ass.
Go to Lala's party in New York, and my daughter threw up all over my costume. So me and Offset.
So Halloween was over?
Halloween was over because it was just so much throw up on the costume and I had nothing to wear. So we just fell asleep, and out of nowhere, like Offset phone kept ringing, my phone kept ringing, and Offset picked up the phone and he's just like, no, and he's screaming and screaming, and he's screaming no. And I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, Takeoff is dead. And I'm like, and I smacked and I said, don't say that. Don't say that. And then he just screaming and just throwing things, throwing up, running all over. And I was so scared. I was just crying so much. It was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Now that the relationship over, what Offset gonna do to get back on track? People don't even listen to music like how they used to. I say she get that man spousal support, child support, and whatever else he need to sustain himself. It's over. Ain't nobody making no money like that in the music industry. And all of the money he could have made, he invested it all into her.
Now I'm crashing out. Because now I'm going to crash out and I don't give a f. I want you to die, but I want you to die slow.
Cardi B crashing out as she calls out estranged hubby Offset.
I want to be done with this marriage. I feel like I'm tied up. A lot of drama.
It all played out Friday on X Spaces. Cardi going live to rant about her ex after he filed for spousal support, alleging he's a deadbeat father, and getting so heated, she let a secret slip.
He stood up my kids 3 times. He has seen Blossom only 5 times.
8-month-old Blossom is the youngest of Cardi and Offset's 3 kids, whose name we did not know until now.
Oh, snappity snap snap.
The two also share 6-year-old daughter Culture and 3-year-old son Wave, and Cardi claims it costs a lot to raise them.
So my kids got their own driver. They picked them up from school, they dropped them off. The kid's driver is on a retainer for $10,000 a month. Culture school this year, you didn't pay for it. That's $45,000. Wave school a year is $35,000. My cousin babysits Wave and Culture. She gets paid $3,000 a week. The nanny was $700 a day. The baby's nanny is $500 a day now because she's not staying the whole day. Culture and Wave gets tutoring 4 times a week by the hour. So that's 2 hours, 1 hour for Culture, 1 hour for Wave. Each hour is $250. So count that up. That's 4 times a week.
The sum well into the 6 figures.
Don't worry about what anybody says. Don't worry about nobody. Don't ever let them take you down, because those people are they're really miserable.
But nothing in this world that I like more than checks.
If Offset is granted spousal support, he could net major bucks from Cardi, who is worth an estimated $80 million.
She just looked like, you know what I'm saying, a scrumptious piece of iron.
Each spouse is entitled to the style of living that they had when they were married. So if one is making a lot more money than the other, then that person would may be entitled to pay spousal support. If they are doing financially well themselves, that's going to offset whatever spousal support obligation the court will find.
I keep trying to tell people just because your net worth is $80 million don't mean that's how much you got in the bank. A lot of people out there working regular jobs, your net worth at $100 million due to the work that you put in for the company, but that don't mean they're going to cut you an $80 million check, or you can go down to the bank and take out some M's because that's what your net worth is. It don't really work like that. Cardi B, get her clothes, her jewelry, people send her that stuff for advertisement. So when you see her out and about, Louis, Gucci, Fendi'd up, that's because them people send her stuff for free. She ain't paying for none of that stuff. As far as them cars, whenever she make appearances, the company got to pay for that just to keep her image going. She an influencer at this point. It's a lot of women out here becoming single mothers after following behind Cardi B. It's a lot of women thinking that they can get into stripping and then do love and hip hop and become a rapper. Her influence may even be worse than Nicki Minaj's influence. So that's how they keep her in the limelight. As far as money for offsetting them kids, they gonna have to figure it out. Open up a food truck. Even the slutty vegan lady doing bad. But one thing for sure, he gonna need something coming from Cardi B because it's looking like he a way better parent than she is. Now, I ain't trying to talk about her parenting skills, but we see Offset with the kids. We see him playing with the kids. As far as Cardi B, chicken nuggets, Lay's potato chips, bologna sandwiches, and hot dogs. That's all I seen her do.
Offset filed an amended divorce response in his ongoing case against Cardi B. He is now asking for spousal support.
So spousal support is determined based on a number of factors. You know, how much are the married people making? What is their life like, you know, living together? Are they both employed? And so what they do is they take the one that's making the most, the supporting spouse, and they determine, you know, how much that person is making, if they're going to be living in a different area, different place, employment, duration of the marriage. And then they look at the receiving spouse, the one that would be receiving the spousal support, to see if that person is working or not, stay-at-home mother or father, how long they've been together, the prospects for future employment. There's a whole bunch of factors that go into it, you know, based on the economics of each spouse, you know, upon divorce. Having children can be a factor in spousal support as it affects, you know, additional, you know, debt for the different spouses, if they're going to be taking care of the children. But there is a separate analysis for child support, because that is specifically for the needs of the child, and, you know, arises really independently from divorce. There's a situation where there could be some offsets between spousal support and child custody support. Child custody is based on, you know, the arrangements of the child. Which spouse are they living with? If a child is living with one spouse more than the other, then the supporting spouse would be entitled to more child custody support. So it kind of depends with the children, you know, who are they living with, and then there's an objective mathematical criteria that kind of goes into that. With spousal support, it's more a little bit more subjective in the sense that it's the lifestyle of living that the receiving spouse has had. You know, when they divorce, you know, the receiving spouse is entitled to a similar type of living that he or she had with the supporting spouse. And so they're going to go into that type of criteria. So it's a little bit different in terms of the factors when determining child support versus custody support. What a judge looks at when trying to decide who's entitled to spousal support is he takes each spouse and determines, you know, the relative economic status of each spouse, how much each spouse is making, are they currently employed, what's their estate like, what are their assets like, and if one is making more than the other, and the divorce will affect the lifestyle of the other spouse, then comes into considerations of spousal support, because each spouse is entitled to the style of living that they had when they were married. So if one is making a lot more money than the other, then that person would may be entitled to pay spousal support to the other person. But there's going to be offsets in terms of the receiving spouse. Are they working? Are they also contributing? Do they have assets? And if they are doing financially well themselves, that's going to offset whatever spousal support obligation the court will find. If one side is asking for spousal support, the inference is that the other is making more money and is more successful. So in terms of determining the assets and revenue and income generated during the marriage, there is an equitable distribution standard. So they're going to look at all the money that was made during that time, and there's going to be an equitable distribution of that income to each. Now, if either side has received separate income, income that either came through inheritance or some type of separate asset that hasn't been commingled, that will not be determined, or be considered. But anything that's made during the marriage, each side is entitled to an equitable distribution. It does seem that there's not a prenup in place. Now, if there is, that's going to go against the claims and desires for spousal support. But it is possible that down the road, she may use that as a defense. And there'll be limitations based on that prenuptial agreement. What each side had before coming into the marriage is deemed their separate property. So they made that's their own. When you get married, at that point, the clock starts ticking for income that is made while the marriage happens, which then each side is entitled to half. Now, sometimes you'll take a separate property asset, let's say stocks or something like that you had before the marriage. You can then come into the marriage, but maybe you use revenues from the stocks to pay a joint house or pay joint bills. Now that's becoming what we call a community property or a joint property asset. And that can now be considered within, the equitable distribution. So it can get a little tricky. Each side before they got married, has their separate property that they made. When they get married, now all income that is made while they're married is joint. But sometimes it can come in from a separate property asset and then be transformed into quasi property that needs to be, subject to equitable distribution. Who has custody of the kids will play a role in terms of spousal support, because at that point, if the child is living with one parent more than the other, that's going to be a heavier financial burden on that parent. And thus the needs and the lifestyle will be altered a little bit, and thus spousal support could be affected. So it's one of many factors in determining spousal support.
I don't know, man. Y'all gonna have to let me know how y'all feel about this in the comment section. It's sad to see Offset going through something like this. And I know it seemed like I be looking out for the brothers, but Cardi B done moved on. She found herself a new baller. I don't know how he feel about her having all them kids. I guess he figure as long as he ain't got to see them kids or be their daddy, he cool with it. Cardi B do got a big old booty. He probably having a good time with her, taking pictures, sending it to his friends. He got a lot of prestige just for having Cardi B in his bed. Now that he got her, he can go out there and bag him another chick and another chick. Maybe one day Beyonce will become single and want to swing his way. I don't know, but one thing for sure, Offset, it's going to be hard for him to find another Cardi B. There's plenty of good looking bras out there, but they ain't got no Grammys. They ain't got no platinum plaques. And if they do, what they want him for? What can he bring to the table besides a crazy ex-wife, baby mama, and a whole bunch of kids? Rest in peace to Takeoff. The rumor is Takeoff allegedly warned this man, you trying to leave us for her, but she gonna leave you for somebody else. Now he no longer here. It's so sad, man. Y'all let me know how y'all feel about this in the comment section. I got so much love for y'all. Make sure y'all do me a favor. Hit that like button. Hit that notification button too. And one more thing before I go. Subscribe to my channel if that's what you want.
Subscribe to my channel if that's what you want. But if that's not what you like, then you must be a punk. Hold on now, here we go. Who is this girl? She got that jump